afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the KYCA PM show and our monthly Mulligan group, the panel of all knowledge. I know Scott said that this was the Bob show. So, Bob, is it your show? Take it away, Bob. Well, okay. That's another week and another time and another subject. All right. To all of you watching on television land, on that fad we call TV, don't even worry about it. Radio, here we are, 928-541-1016. If you really want to ask the panel anything and everything, and we're going to go around the table to get everybody started. Once again, of course, to my left, the inevitable Bob Recker, and it's the Bob Show -1 today. So
it is. Yes.
So Bob, what's up for next week during the Real Bob Show?
Next week I've got two guests. I've got Chris Wilson, our old friend from Silent Witness, will be on.
Okay.
And I've got Kelly Lee, who is the program manager for Matt Force.
All right.
On. So we're going to have two of them on, and we're going to talk all about what's going on with those.
Fantastic.
Things. Yep.
Looking
forward to it.
We need to keep up the fight on fentanyl and everything
That's
else.
right. June 6th at 4 o'clock.
June 6th. Next
Right
Tuesday,
here.
put it on your calendar and actually call in, folks. I wouldn't call in during this one. I'd be too scared myself. They conned me into this. Not anybody. Okay.
We don't bite.
That's right. You better not. And across from me, of course, is the dean of the morning hosts and the morning coffee club, and that would be Phil King. Good morning,
Good
Phil.
afternoon.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just saw you this morning, and we were discussing show prep.
Yeah, well, we got through that.
And that's when Malcolm came in and said, well, I'm not going to be there
here
because of various
and
sundry problems.
If Bob and I have a bit of wisdom between us, we defer to the young lady.
That's
there you
right.
Go. That's it, exactly.
The substitute, the McLaughlin group never had the same panel. They always had different people, and we do so here as well on the panel of all knowledge. Her lady here on her first class, former Senate President Karen Fann, here to keep us honest and to put us in our place. So somebody said we actually needed some brains on the panel of all knowledge, and here you are.
Okay, well, thank you.
Someone who had a successful career.
Well, there you go. The political career, let's see. City council, all the way up to Senate President, and 2 minutes.
There you go.
Yes, my career lasted 2 minutes, and that is a story in itself. So anyway, not for today. We've got too many things to talk about. 928-541-1016. First question for the day. Does anybody want to go local, or do we want to go national and just kind of ease our way into things?
Well, we can do local. Blair did a great job this morning talking about the city and their budget proposals and what that looks like.
Give us a quick synopsis.
Go ahead, please.
Let's
run with it. Yeah.
How crazy is it to want to spend some tens of millions of dollars that you don't have taking land off the tax rolls, and you got one councilman who's not running this time around who thinks, well, that's a lot of money, but maybe we can raise taxes to get it. Mm-hmm. And you've got one of the incumbents running who thinks that's a great idea and we need to buy more. And where they intend to get the money is anybody's guess because it doesn't exist.
Well, what are they queuing up for? Is it safety? What is it that they're looking for besides the open space issue? Is this, you're talking about the property by the airport, right?
Well, no, there's two different sets of dirt. One is the old Save the Dells Cavan property, Giesey's property, and that proposal. And the other is the land under the airport that they've already run into problems and has already cost them several hundreds of thousands of dollars in making settlements with some of the property owners there. If you take away pre-approved uses through a zoning change, that's a taking, and you got to pay for it. And they don't seem to think it's an issue.
Is there any way to pay for it? Karen?
Well, they would be using taxpayer dollars, obviously. They're, and sounds like the suggestions they're coming up with is, well, if we don't take it away from fire and police and parks and recs and all the other things that we're supposed to be spending money on, the basics like we thought we were doing, then if they're not, you either take it away or you raise taxes to pay for something.
Yeah. Okay. And how many police officers down are we on the force? 15, 20?
Quite a few.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You might want to pay attention to getting the staff up to where it belongs. And you need those response times from the fire department.
In the meantime, by the way, the fire department came out with a master plan for the next 5 years, and I believe the addition of at least 2 fire departments and two new buildings.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to pay for that.
Yeah. Fortunately there's land for one of them there in the Prescott Lakes area that was originally set aside. You remember that. And then I believe Ron James has made some available out in Deep Well Ranch for a unit out there too.
All right.
But you still have to staff them, and you got to equip them. And that's what our sales taxes go for.
Right.
Is those kinds of things, not to take more land off the tax rolls that raises everybody's property taxes.
On a positive note, thank you, Ron James.
Yes.
He has done so much. The Elks Theater,
Yeah.
The breast thing, I think, the breast location,
Cancer Center, yeah.
cancer
Right.
out in PV.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
The YMCA. What a guy!
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
The whole family's
what a
pretty
privilege
awesome.
to have a guy like that live in Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah. True. You're right.
And like J.P. Mulligan,
Mm-hmm.
he's a U of A grad.
There you go. That's even better.
Got that little plug in there, didn't you, Bob?
Yawn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yawn.
Speaking as a former lumberjack, and I'm okay. I don't care for either of you on any of that.
You know what's wrong with NAU, right?
What's wrong?
It's oxygen deprivation at that elevation.
And we're very happy
And you
about
all lose 20 IQ points going through the U.
That's the end of the show, folks. Good night. I'm going to be disciplining some people. I only had to yell children twice on the last show, so okay.
Okay. We'll behave.
All right. So anyway, when it comes to this, I mean, we're in an election year. How the heck do you explain this to the people, and what do you do to solve? Well, do you solve the problem by moving money? Can you move the money legally within the city? Can you do anything you want to as a city councilman?
Well, it's the way they bought the new city hall was internal borrowing from the other departments, but you got to pay that back at interest too.
That's true.
So even that action hurt the taxpayers because they're paying it back with interest out of the city budget.
But the answer would be yes. As long as you identify where you're taking the money from and what's not going to be there because of it, you can switch the money around and do that.
Yeah.
Do you see anybody running on this kind of a question right now? Is anybody even bringing this up, Karen?
I don't think they are yet, but I think they ought to. I mean, when us three were on council, one of our bottom line was when things came up, we said, is this a responsibility of a duty of the city of Prescott?
Yeah.
And we always stuck with those fundamentals. We're supposed to be doing streets, roads, sewers,
Basic services.
fire, police, basic services was our motto, and that's how we built our budget. We
did something real smart too, and I'll brag on it. We took last year's income to set this year's budget. We didn't use next year's predicted or income to set the budget. We used last year's reals.
Right.
And because you did that,
got a surplus.
We ended up, when I got there, we ended up doing all kinds of projects all over the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because of that
issue. Because you had the money.
Sure.
Okay.
Because you weren't spending in advance and paying your credit card interest on.
Like the bozos in Washington.
When you need. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things you guys had brought up is, when we talk about, with the purchase of open space, this is not new. This has been going on since day one, since I moved here in 58. It was not in my backyard. They didn't want Prescott Lakes. They didn't want anything up there on Rosser. I mean, I can go down the list. They didn't want the mall. They didn't want Jim Lee's project, the ranch out there.
Right.
I mean, this has been nonstop from day one. But you mentioned something very, very important, Bob, is when we're talking about how do you pay for it, that's only half the ticket. What you said is you're taking it off the tax rolls. So it's a double whammy that people don't even really realize that this isn't open space for free. This is costing you double.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's a tax increase on your property taxes every time you take an acre off the tax rolls.
That's right.
Do you see this?
I can't see him on the camera.
You know, I'm sorry. We were in the midst of a very knowledgeable and important discussion,
Yeah, and Karen said I said something really smart.
and the fourth member of the group happens to walk in.
Yeah.
None the worse for wear.
Hey guys, no, you guys are doing fine.
You gotta-
Thanks, Mal.
You got to plan these things better, Malcolm. I'll tell you what. I'm sorry. We're going to have to take a break here on KYC. Thank you very much. You see, Karen brings the brains into the group. Thank you, Malcolm.
And I bring the bronze.
Folks, you know I did this on a dare once, and we're still at it. So I'm very sorry. We will come back for more, unfortunately, right after these messages. A PM show, the panel of all knowledge. Does anybody else want to join us? I mean, you're all welcome to just come on by. 928-541-1016. Yes, the fifth member of the group, Malcolm in the Morning, Mal Barrett Jr., has shown up. Why?
With my sparkly clean.
Hold on.
Keith,
Hold on. You're not even hooked up yet. I don't know why I was asking you a question. I said somebody in front of a microphone. Let's get to important stuff before Malcolm joins the group here. I'm sure you do. Okay, yeah, he's got comments. Okay, everybody just face this way and ignore him. Okay, very quickly, back onto local things. The number one item that I've been hearing about over the weekend, and I heard it out in the lobby also, was the word fairgrounds. The rodeo committee put out a $40 million plan,
Yeah.
and then the state obliged with $15.3 million, I believe. Now, Karen, is this matching funds? I believe it is.
No, it's just regular funds.
Okay, I
Just-
wasn't sure about that. So, okay. So, what's the big deal? I mean, this is going to be an economic boon to the city of Prescott, I believe, if this goes through as they say. But this has caused consternation of all kinds. Of course, the neighbors, the city, everybody. Where do we start? What's the problem here? Everybody looks to Phil.
Well,
here.
it acted
Yeah,
like
and
Well,
I
we're all
don't-
sitting there go, do we really tell the truth or
And
do
I-
we be
well,
nice?
the reason
No, I
I know
think we
about it, a lady called into Mal's show and said, Malcolm, what's this money in the state budget? And Malcolm said, well, I'm not sure. I don't know. $13 million, the number I remember.
15.3.
And then it moved around. The number moved around.
Right.
Now I'm hearing 40. And
Well, now
No,
that's
the plan.
The plan is $40 million. It will cost $40 million.
okay.
And they say that this is not going to be a taxpayer plan, that they're going to raise the funds privately or not with a bond issue, not with a tax. But this is taxpayer money, $15 million, that the state did not have to provide. They could have, they didn't. And as I understood from our Friday morning show with Ken and Kwong and Selena, who were all here and very nicely to talk about it, this was a one-time outlay of state funds. Am I right?
That is
on that?
correct.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So,
Wonderful.
Divvied up between all the counties, and
Well-
this was for Yavapai County, and they lobbied very efficiently
Successfully,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they did something weird this year down there for the budget. Something new that we had never done before. But the current Senate President and Speaker of the House agreed to allocate a certain amount of money to each member, each Republican member, and then there was a lump sum amount of, I don't remember, 400,000 or 400 million or something like that.
Right.
That was the Democrats, and the Democrats said, well, we're not going to divvy it up. We're going to just do a Democrat plan, and so they put a lot of that money into their social programs that way want to do. But the Republicans, they, for the most part, few of them teamed up for maybe a special project, but they had their asking. Now, is this a pork? Is this an earmark? You can call it anything you want. The bottom line is this has been going on for years. These last 4 years being Senate President, I had to deal with Paul Boyer, Kate Brophy McGee, Michelle Ugenti-Rita, Heather Carter. And when you have a 16-14 margin, those guys come in and said, I want $1 million for this. Paul Boyer last year wanted $1 billion for his stuff, or he was a no on the budget. You want to know why it takes so long? So this is interesting, the way that they did this.
Yeah.
So the little, it's not peanuts because it obviously is a lot of money, but this is not unusual for people to ask for things for their district.
Karen, do you think this is a better way to do it?
I thought it was interesting, but I think the answer is no. I mentioned to another reporter today that they asked, would you do this if you were still Senate President? I wouldn't. they're going to ask anyway, what do you do about the person that says, okay, I'm going to take my $60 million allocation, but you're still not getting my vote until I get another $500 million for this or that. And you know that happened behind closed doors.
Of course it did.
I know that.
That's how budgets get made, isn't
That's
it?
right.
And in an election year, are they going to try this again or something similar?
They might, but this has been going on for the last few years. We've had money in there for county fair associations, for not only the state but for all various ones. We've had stuff for cattlemen. We've had stuff for the U of A vet hospital. We got money last year over there for Camp Birdie to open up a meat packing and a satellite for U of A to be able to train butchers. And that was something that was a pet, a very pet project for myself and Andy Grissetta and a number of people, the ranchers over in the Birdie Valley area.
Okay. Yeah. So what would this mean if they're able to raise the money? And no plan survives the first round, typically. There's going to be changes. But it's an extremely ambitious plan that will rebuild the fairgrounds for the next 50 years plus.
Yeah.
And is this going to, if they manage to pull at least some of this off, is this going to be a net positive for the community?
Yes.
All right.
Don't everybody's looking at me here.
Yes.
You're the dean. Come on.
Yeah, it's going to be a net positive for the community. I think the controversy comes in because of the tension between Prescott Frontier Days and their lobbyist and the mayor, who kind of they kind of ran around him.
Okay.
And put in their application for the state funds, and that got put in the budget. And there's some tension
Some
because
consternation.
because the city's decision-making process wasn't involved with it. The city owns the land.
Right.
Prescott Frontier Days, a nonprofit,
Yes.
leases the land from them to run the rodeo. Okay.
Yeah. And that's that.
And that, that. It's a controversy but it's really a non-issue. It was done through the legislature by Prescott Frontier Days, and it was done essentially open and above board, as much as ever a budget can be.
If you were a property owner with a long-term lease and your tenant was making a $40 million improvement to your property,
wouldn't you be happy?
I would think that would be
Yeah.
pretty secure as a tenant.
And the voices of the people who live around there, one of the nicest neighborhoods in the entire city of Prescott on Norris Road is within shouting distance.
Sure.
And they're fine with it.
Yeah.
It's some of the other folks, and what a lot of them don't understand is that used to be the county racetrack.
Yeah.
And it was
Right.
one of two racetracks
and
in
that-
the state, and that place filled up with people and horses
And
all
that-
summer long.
Yeah, the nostalgia and the ambiance of the old days. I can remember there's big poles there, and around the big poles were those little tables. It went all the way around the pole, and you would stand there. Not sit there. You would stand there, drink beer, and you'd be there, and we'd go, well, what horse are you going to bet on? And we'd talk like that for a while, and then we'd all stumble over there and spend $2 on a bet, and then we'd come back and we'd cheer, and we'd lose money. We'd lose, and then we'd all, well, it's your fault, and all that's
Our whole
gone now,
$2,
I'm sure.
Now, what you're not saying, though, is I got to jump in real quick on this one.
Okay.
Is part of the fun. Chuck Shepard, everybody was down there. It's like
right.
old home week down there. But the other fun thing is everybody knew, well, this jockey is dating this jockey, because we had male and females. And then we proceed to say they're not going to do very well because they were out drinking last night and they got in this big fight. Did you see the shiner on his eye? And he goes, she did that to him. So that stuff was not in the program. The betting odds. You had to get that inside information.
I knew the person. I knew the
That's all
person
gone now.
who was the veterinary chiropractor for the horses,
Oh, okay.
and knew which horse could run, which one had a sore back or a sore hip. I mean, you get the inside story. What it teaches you is don't gamble.
Yeah,
You know,
You never
Yeah,
win.
no, it
Yeah,
never,
well,
never
no.
works.
Did you ever
no.
go out to the new fairgrounds, the new racetrack out in the back end of
Yes.
Prescott Valley?
Yeah.
Yes.
The ambiance was never
non-existent.
No.
there.
No,
Even though they
non-existent.
have this skyboxes in the suites and the ambience just wasn't there.
Well, you know what they did out there? They built this beautiful bar out there, and guess what? You can't see the racetrack when you're sitting at the bar.
Right, when you're at the
Who
bar, all you can
decided
see
that?
is the TVs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're not
you watch the
overlooking the
TV.
track.
Crazy.
And you all keep looking at me like I knew this. See, this was gone by the time I got
Well,
here.
yeah.
I went to the
Yeah.
track one time, and I should not have. Let's just put it that way.
And
But they'll be able to have and host a whole lot of more events, more
True.
ropings that you
Right,
used to.
team
and
ropes.
get
just
kicked
who
out of
knows,
and-
maybe we'll get the Sizzler back.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Ooh.
Remember
yeah.
the salad
And
bar?
they'll have gymkhanas. They'll
Yeah,
have
I
all
can-
kinds of
yeah,
events
yeah.
there, and I think it's a positive.
I remember
I
Johnny
really
Carson
do.
one night lost a bunch of money at the track over in California or something. He says, "Why am I betting on animals with one eye on one side of their face and one eye on the other side of their face?" You know, he made a joke.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
You know what? We're about to come to a break, unfortunately, folks. And, of course, everybody's here today. Wayne has a question when we come back from the break. Wayne, why? Why would you interrupt this? Anyway, Wayne, you got two questions. We'll get to you in just a few moments. Folks, around the table one more time, because all of you, if you're keeping score at home, you know that we've got a new player this month, and that's Karen Fan. So, Karen, thank you for joining us
Absolutely.
here.
My pleasure.
We're thrilled to do it. We've got some brains on the group now.
But you know what?
And then Malcolm
One more, and we have the quorum of the 1994 City Council.
Oh, my gosh.
Not that we were ever accused of that in the past.
That-
Oh no, no.
And now we're breaking the law. Thank you, Malcolm.
We're has-beens. It doesn't count anymore.
Yeah. Only at Murphy's.
There you go. Okay, folks, if you're having half as much fun as I am, you've got a problem. Let's continue that problem after the break here on KYCA. Thanks, and we'll talk to you in a minute. Back here on the KYCA PM show, as you can see on the camera, we've got four good people around the table and a fifth over in the corner where he belongs. That's Malcolm Barrett Jr. So Bob Recker, Phil King, Karen Fan, thank you very much for coming. Malcolm, don't crash the party again. Okay, but everybody, you're not going to hear the question. I will relay it to Malcolm. Let's bring Wayne in on line one. Wayne?
Thank you.
Hey, Wayne,
I'm
you're...
driving a Honda Civic, so if I go in and out, I got one hand on the wheel and one on the phone.
We didn't hear you...
I've thought about Arizona Downs. I don't know all of the historical information, but it's a lot bigger place. There's not a lot of homes around the area. If I go to the old rodeo area, it's too condensed. You've got these poor homes, lurching up against the property itself.
Okay.
The next question is maybe for Karen, what can we do and how can we get the politicians to buy in and maybe a small tax, I guess gasoline, or some other way, maybe the Quarry, CMAQ, Vulcan, Arizona Downs, if they ever get a venue going, and improve 89A. I saw a gentleman hit the side of a Honda, and it killed him right there on the spot. Woman did a U-turn illegally, but we need to improve that road. It was made for Model Ts, according to the Quarry. when I
Okay.
talked to them the other day.
All right, so fairground question and road improvements on 89A particularly. Karen, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm going to touch on the rodeo grounds, and I'll go to the road real quick, because I just want to bring up with the rodeo grounds. You mentioned a lot of things, Wayne, but one thing that we always talked about on the council is if we don't, if we don't protect or preserve whatever that it is, then and it goes away, what happens to that property after it goes away? And I know there's a lot of concerns about the neighborhood, and you always work with the neighborhoods, but if we don't keep that rodeo grounds up and keep it moving forward, are we going to have apartments there? Are we going to have commercial businesses there? Property is not going to stay empty. It is going to be developed one way or another. So I'll just leave that and move on to the roads. And Wayne, you're absolutely correct. 89A north of Paulden really needs some help, as does I-40, which is just horrible, horrible. We are in the state level, we are very blessed because we have unexpected revenues because the construction's been so good. Our problem why we can't get some of this done, even though we have the money, is we don't have the help. Contractors cannot hire enough people, and the materials that are still shortage even after COVID. But the number one thing right now is building contractors, whether it's highway or whether it's building buildings, they don't have enough equipment operators. They don't have enough employees, and you can't do the work without it, even if you have all the money in the world.
Yep.
Well, I know that you'd want to do the contracting locally, maybe first and foremost, but what about all American asphalt? Because if we don't partner up with, let's say, Arizona Downs with the new owner and get some money from them, what about the solar panel project that's on its way to, getting built? And then, of course, CMAC Vulcan. We could vulcanize, we could use the asphalt plant there to minimize the cost, since a lot of the shoulders are in, but they're not adequate for the large trucks. We've got a disaster waiting to happen with head-ons and lawsuits.
Right,
If we don't nip that in the bud. It's only 8 miles to the bottom of where Legend Hills is, above the quarry. And you got 240 homes going in by Dorn.
Yeah.
240 plus.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be
I didn't know that.
a mess.
Well, all right. Phil, you were going to say something?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, well, thank you for calling in, Wayne. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Wayne.
it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think he was on 89A
Yeah.
out by the Once Upon a Time fairgrounds.
Right.
out beyond Prescott Valley.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
of course, that was
Going
all...
up towards Mingus. too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was all built, 20 years ago
Right.
Right.
for population expansion. Then it's more than it was planned for, and of course you still have just the single road from about that point going up Mingus. So but you're gonna tackle a state highway project like 89A up Mingus.
No, it can't change.
Bad
It's
enough
I-40's
bad enough what's happened at I-17. You try to do the road up Mingus, and
I couldn't even handle one cattle guard going up that road.
that's what I
Actually, it
hear.
was
That's
coming
what
down.
I hear. Yes.
Yeah. Has anybody? But that you bring up a good point, Karen. Has anybody in this group besides me been on I-40 or 89 lately? You have, Karen?
It's awful.
Between here and Las Vegas, or were you going to Flagstaff too?
Both. Yes, both.
Both,
People
and
are
it's just as
talking
bad.
about
I-40
using Route 66.
Wow.
Getting
Yeah.
over on the old road
Route
instead of using I-40. That's how bad it is.
The
It is
I-40
bad.
in between Seligman and Kingman is horrible.
Oh,
Yes.
Now going north isn't that bad.
It's
That's all new.
it's semi truck after semi truck
Right.
after semi truck.
Right.
It might as well be a water pipe,
Right.
because they are bumper to bumper,
Yeah.
one every 5 seconds on that road. It's
And-
just constant.
I was on the trip from Vegas to here in April, and bless you.
Sorry.
Bless you. That's okay. It's live radio, folks.
I know,
And
sorry.
television, too. Did you get that?
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Keep the tape.
Trying to hold it.
No, it's okay. Vegas to Prescott. I was in the middle of a day on Monday when I came back in April, and there wasn't much traffic, thank goodness, because the semis were taking the entire roadway, swerving around all the bumps and the potholes, which were killing some of the trucks out there and cars.
My
for that
nephew and his family were coming back from Kingman, turned down 93 to head to Wickenburg, and got into a mess, rolled their van,
Oh, my goodness.
and fortunately they're all alive.
matter.
But
Yeah.
it was
Ugh.
it was horrifying.
I'll bet.
It really was. And
Okay.
she's still in bad shape from
Oh,
injuries.
Oh man. And
that was
just,
almost a year ago.
it's not gotten any better over there, if not worse. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here on the KYCA PM show, and the panel is going to pause for a moment. When we come back, who knows what we'll get into. It's just going to be funny. All right, we'll be back after this. I got to say it now. Children, come on. Let's focus up here on KYCA PM. Yeah. Malcolm, you know what? Next time when you've got a dental appointment, keep it.
I did. I just went early.
Okay, the panel of all knowledge: Bob Recker, Phil King, Karen Fan, Malcolm Barrett Jr. What do you say we move on? Shall we move on from the local stuff, or are we having too much
Well,
fun?
Malcolm wanted to say something
I
about the new
will.
city.
Please do,
I
Malcolm.
visited the new city hall for the first time
Yes.
today. I was at the bank and I said, well, let me go upstairs to the third floor and look at the council chambers. And
Right.
I have never felt like a more isolated, hostile, disconnected environment for the public than the new city hall. When you get out of the elevator, if you go left, there's a receptionist behind a locked door and a glass. That's all you see, with like 4 chairs in front. That's it. If you go right out of the elevator, go back to the council chambers, it's a long hall with locked doors.
Yeah.
All the way to the council chambers. And I will say the council chambers are an improvement over the old one.
Okay.
Well,
it's about
that
twice
almost
the size.
goes without saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's about twice the size, and it's got everybody can sit up front, and it's got big screen TVs. And I would say the chambers themselves are more comfortable than the old chambers were.
Okay.
But the experience for taxpayers walking in the front door to do whatever city business they have is hostile, and it's isolating.
Is it worth $8 million?
Oh my goodness! You got to go up there and see it for yourself. You just, yeah.
How about getting on to the veto queen on the 9th floor down there?
I wasn't going to say anything, but okay. Karen? Thoughts?
Katie is being Katie. That's all I can say. Governor Hobbs is. She's relying on staff to tell her what to do, and that's
who
not
are all
working
quitting.
and that's not working real well because they are doing things, and it's not setting real well with the public or even the media. The liberal media down there is mad at her.
Yeah.
Now you got to be pretty bad if the liberal media is mad at the Democrat governor. So. Yeah, and it's vindictiveness. There's some really, really good bills that absolutely, that should have been signed in, and she just vetoed him out of pure vindictiveness.
Well, she knows that the numbers aren't there. You can never override a veto.
Well, yeah,
They
and
never
it's
get
She
the
her
promised
turn
to
to
do
get
that
even.
the day she took office.
Yeah.
She is going to veto any Republican majority bill, period.
Yes,
That's what she said
It's
when.
small, it's petty, and they're trying to get even because they're trying to show, look who's in charge now.
Yeah.
Even though it's only the governor's office, but
Elections have consequences.
yes, they do.
Yes.
Yep, they
All
do.
right. Your expert opinion, Karen,
Mm-hmm.
having done this a couple of times with the 16-14 majorities and everything, how did the budget turn out for the Republicans and the Democrats? I'm hearing all sorts of stories.
Oh boy.
Well, I think it's the best that it could be done under the circumstances. I was
Okay.
kind of, it's interesting to note that Katie signing it, she's obviously is getting flack from the Republicans, but she's getting flack from the Democrats. So this is what happens sometimes when you try and walk that line. But I will give her some credit, whether it's her or staff, that at some point somebody had to make a decision, because if they both dig their heels in, you've got a very, very strong, stubborn Senate president in there now, as well as the House Speaker now, and as well as some of the members. If anything, our chambers moved more to the right this last election.
Ah, interesting.
We lost
yeah.
we lost some people that would at least sit down and talk, and so it could have been a real shutdown if she didn't sign it. It was heading in that direction.
Well, that's why her own Democrats are mad at her, because she signed the budget.
Right, exactly right.
Okay.
Well, they had another excuse to blame the Republicans if you went to a budget stalemate.
Oh, of course.
And it's always the Republicans' fault.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, that's just par for the course. So come on, that's a given, Malcolm.
Just saying.
So, but I've heard anywhere from Republicans won this budget battle to, well, it was pretty much a dead heat depending on who wanted what. And I don't know. Even with the Republican majority, split houses. Let's put it that way. Apparently the negotiations went well for the Republicans. That's the story I've heard.
Well, and I think the trade-off is that they have the power with the 16 and 31 votes. However, she's got the power, the veto power, and so
As we've seen.
Yeah.
so the Republicans might have gained some leeways on the budget, but they sure lost on the bills
Okay.
not signed in.
And you'll never get 21 votes to.
Isn't that a
Override.
fair compromise when everybody loses?
Yeah.
There we go.
No.
Kind of the way it goes.
Thank you for that.
That might be
bit of
what
wisdom
McCarthy would say. or-
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly, I'll tell you what, before we get any further, just off the top of your heads, predictions for next year. No, I have other predictions later, but I want to talk about the state legislature. We obviously will have another split house after next year's election. Do both houses stay Republican? Karen?
That's going to be a big iffy. We thought the red wave was coming this one. We raised a lot of money in our victory fund, try and get these folks on board. Our problem is that people they're not running good campaigns right now.
Okay.
Way too much personal stuff, way too much crazy stuff. I'm just going to say it, crazy stuff. They're spending time talking about things instead of talking about the issues.
Yeah.
And it's distracting from people. There was no reason why Carrie Lake shouldn't have won had she run a smarter campaign. And I'm saying that lovingly because, when you run in a primary, you go for the red meat because you've got to know your audience. You know that old saying. But after the primary, you need to talk more to the independent people and tell them what you're going to do for them as well as for all the state, not just the red meat issues.
Yeah.
And she didn't do it.
A third of the registrations in Arizona are no party preference.
Right.
Correct.
And now, next year, we have this no party called No Labels that's got ballot position.
Yes.
And there's going to be candidates there.
Right.
I suspect it's going to be Kirsten Sinema for that Senate seat running No Labels.
Could be, but also remember, why else we're losing?
Yeah.
Is because our Republican Party can't seem to get it together.
Oh,
we're
absolutely.
too busy trashing each other, calling each other rhinos, calling each other every name under the book. And that is a distraction. It not only ticks off the voters, all the voters, but on the other hand, why are we spending time, money, and effort trashing each other? And the Democrats are just sitting back, rubbing their hands, going, let them kill each other off,
Yeah.
and we'll just walk in and take over the governor's
Well,
office.
that
and the
raises an
Attorney General's
interesting
office.
question. Why haven't we heard the term dino before?
Because they don't.
Exactly.
The Bongino theory.
Mm-hmm.
Some Republicans are Democrats, but no Democrats are ever Republicans.
Ever.
That's
And
right.
there's no such thing as a Democrat in name only. You're either Democrat or you're not.
Yeah.
And that is my philosophy with the party. You're Republican or you're not. There's no in between.
Yeah.
And when we start labeling each other, that's when we fall apart.
That's
Three
right.
three quarters of a loaf is better than no loaf.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. I'll tell you what.
Bob?
We have to. Bob. Sorry, Bob.
I think the Republicans are going to do fine in the next election. I'll be optimistic.
In the state.
In the state.
In the state.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We're going to take our quick break. When we come back, predictions from the all-knowing, all-seeing panel. Write them down, folks. Keep score. This is going to be interesting. We'll see you after this. We're back here on KYCAPM on the panel of all knowledge. Ha! Okay. Anyway, Karen, thank goodness you walked in the door today because 90% of our brain power is right there in the chair. So thank you very much for coming, and we hope you'll join us again at some point. But now we're going around the table for predictions. Very quickly, I want one prediction and a very fast one. Okay. At this point in 2008, Hillary's lead over Obama was exactly the same as Trump's lead over DeSantis for the primary, and we all know how that turned out in 2008. Are we going to see a repeat with DeSantis? Bob,
Yes.
He's certainly
you're
going
going to beat DeSantis is going to beat Trump.
Somebody's going to be. It's one of my predictions.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Okay,
We'll
but I think what we see now is not what's going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a long time to the primaries next year, first of all.
right.
So everything's a caveat from that point on.
Exactly.
Right.
But I think DeSantis is going to gain ground as people get to know him. I'm a Tim Scott guy. I think he's
great.
I
Yeah.
think he's fantastic.
It's probably too nice.
Him and the snowball don't have a chance. But
My favorite guy is Vivek Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy,
Well,
who
I-
is
We're going to get to that. I was
Okay.
talking Trump and
I know, I
DeSantis
apologize.
because everybody else is splitting the 1% right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Karen?
The guys are right. It's a little too early. Anything can change. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Trump still has a huge following, and he could pull off the primary. But do I think he can win the general? Probably not.
Ah, okay, very good. Malcolm?
Well, I've been wrong on my last three predictions.
Okay, that's it, Malcolm. Thank you.
So I say Trump wins.
You say Trump wins
The
the...
primary and the general.
I say Trump wins the primary because I've been wrong the last three times.
Oh, my
Because
goodness.
I know Trump can't beat Biden again, and that's ridiculous.
Well,
do you think
when you
Biden's
cannot
gonna-
beat a brain dead
No,
old man.
I've got a prediction about that.
Yeah.
No, I
Oh
don't.
my goodness. Okay. No, go ahead,
No,
Phil, please.
No, it's not going to be Biden.
Okay, there you. Oh, now we. Okay.
Bob's biting at the bit.
All right,
Michelle.
let's make the rounds on the predictions now.
Okay.
We've got 5 minutes
Will it
left.
be
Bob,
Biden?
go for it.
Okay, here we go. I'll be quick. I've got like 6 predictions here.
Really?
Well,
Whoa.
remember 2
Right.
weeks ago I told you I had some?
Right.
Well, I've added since then.
Okay, right quickly, folks.
Okay, here we go. Biden will be replaced. The Democrats will replace Biden immediately if anything happens to Trump.
True.
It's not much of a prediction, but that will happen. I
Okay.
guarantee it.
Okay.
Okay. The Diamondbacks will make the playoffs.
Ooh, I
Throw
like
that
that
out there.
one.
Yeah, they.
The Cardinals will also make the playoffs.
No.
That's a long. That's a long one, but I
No.
think that's
Long
going to happen.
They're dead.
I also 2 weeks ago said there'll be 10 candidates running for president for the Republican Party in 2024. There's already 7. There were 3 added since I thought that one up, so that's not much of a prediction.
Okay.
2 more. Here comes a wild one. Elon Musk's team will get to Mars before NASA does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, everybody agree with that one?
Yeah, yeah.
And the last one is the University of Arizona's basketball team will win the national championship in 2025.
25?
2024.
Thank
excuse
you
me,
very much.
2024.
You know, Elon said one time in an interview his fervent wish was that when NASA put the first man on Mars and he stepped foot, all of his colonists would be there to give him a Starbucks and welcome to the surface. I think that'll happen. Phil, predictions.
Follow up on the Democrat side. RFK Jr.
Yes.
is the real dark horse. I can visualize, especially with no labels on the ballot in 10 states and gaining ballot position in more states, I can see a 3-way race.
Okay.
A hard left Democrat, whichever Republican, and Robert F. Kennedy.
And who's Kennedy's running mate if he's no labels?
Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay, there you go. I knew you were going to say that. I just wanted to lead you
I
into
know,
it.
yeah. Or Kirsten Sinema. But Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay. Karen.
All good. One of my major predictions is there is no way that Biden is going to be able to run or fulfill a run, much less win.
Okay.
I think it was his turn, and nobody realized how bad he was. I think they absolutely did keep him under wraps, which is why he didn't campaign.
Yep.
And I think he's just a placeholder till they get somebody else set up.
Karen, I love what you said, but I disagree. Democrats never do that. They knew exactly what they had there, and they didn't care. They put him up there because they knew that he was declining. His cognitive was going. It didn't matter to him. They thought that he could do it the way he did it, and he pulled it off.
Okay.
I would love to talk to McCarthy about how their one-on-one conversations were over the budget.
Yeah,
I'm
me
sure.
too.
Because I doubt that Biden has any grasp at all of what's going on.
I have a feeling the conversation was McCarthy saying, "I think we ought to cut so and so out of the budget," and Biden answered, "Chocolate."
Yeah.
Okay,
Chocolate
very
chip.
quickly before I get to Malcolm, Karen, if it's not Biden, who is it? Who's the top Democrat vote getter?
It's too early. They haven't been coming out, but Kennedy, I think, has got a real chance. He's already lining up independents, moderate Republicans with some of the things he's doing.
We had a 20-year-old the other day,
Right.
20-something, say to us, "Oh, it would be so wonderful to have another Kennedy as president."
There you go.
Yeah.
20 seconds, Malcolm.
Democrats
Wild
will
card,
help 'em.
2 names.
Yes.
Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama. I don't know how they play out, but they're in
Oh,
the wings.
Gavin's been out there. He's their fair-haired boy.
He measured for curtains last year.
The
I mean, come
golden
on,
boy.
you know. Okay, Karen, thank you for joining us. Phil, Bob, Malcolm, what were you thinking? And folks, what was I thinking? But thank
I'm
you
the one
all.
that
4
recommended
weeks
you
from
call-
today, we will be back on the Panel of All Knowledge. Who knows? Who cares? We'll see. Thanks for joining us, folks.